tax freight train is bearing down on your retirement. To protect yourself, you'll have to harness the power of zero.
Hi there. Welcome to the Power of Zero show. This is David McKnight. I appreciate you carving out a portion of your time to spend some time to learn a little bit more about the Power of Zero paradigm. I'm the best-selling author of The Power of Zero, Look Before You Lerp, and The Volatility Shield. And as I've announced in past podcasts, I've got a new book coming out. It's not coming out for a little under a year. February 9th, 2020. That's the big launch date for my next book through Penguin Random House, through the Portfolio imprint. Very excited. The Tax-Free Income for Life is the name of the book. And it's going to really bring everything full circle with the Power of Zero worldview. We're going to show you how to eliminate tax rate risk and longevity risk. The two, in my mind, the two single greatest threats to your retirement: tax rate risk, the risk that tax rates in the future will be dramatically higher than they are today, and longevity risk, the risk that your money doesn't last quite as long as you do in retirement. In other words, the risk of running out of money before you die. How do you bridge these two concepts? How do you insulate yourself from the impact of higher taxes and guarantee that you'll never run out of money between now and when you retire? So looking forward for you to see the unifying theory. It's really not a theory, but unifying approach, if you will, to being able to mitigate both of those risks. If you are looking for a Power of Zero advisor, someone that can help, a steady hand, a seasoned expert that can help you navigate all of the pitfalls that stand between you and the 0% tax bracket, head on over to davidmcknight.com. We'll be happy to hook you up with an advisor who can shepherd you through that process. And if you are a financial advisor looking to transition your practice to a Power of Zero type practice, head on over to powerofzero.com and opt into our free video series. And that will give you all the information you need on how to get started. Once again, if you would like to follow me on Twitter, I'd be tickled pink. I really would be honored if you follow me on Twitter. It's at McKnight & Co. at McKnight & Co. And once again, we're always thrilled when you put reviews on Amazon. It helps legitimize really the concepts that are in our books, and people almost always read those reviews and see how many stars you give it. So I appreciate an honest and balanced review over on Amazon. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about the coronavirus. I am just in full disclosure, I'm recording this on March 9th. And as of right now, the stock market is down 19% from its peak in February. So that's really erased a lot of what happened in 2019. So a lot of those returns are gone. So we're going to talk about, as someone who embraces a Power of Zero worldview, how do we deal with these types of ebbs and flows in the market? Before we do that, though, let me give you my take on what this pandemic, if you will, means for our country, and what I think we should be doing to prepare against it. First of all, my understanding is that the infections will double every 6 days, and which means that really, by the time we hit mid-May, these should start tapering off. I'm told that, by that point, it'll be about 90 million people infected. But remember, the people that are really infected by this are the ones that are over age 70. Really, over age 80 is really when you got to work, or you have some sort of immune system breakdown or some predisposed, pre-existing condition that makes you especially susceptible to these types of influenzas. For the rest of us who are in reasonably good health and are younger than age 70, I would say just practice safe social distancing. Wash your hands as often as you can, because the measures that you can take on your end are going to protect those people that have precarious immune systems. And so I think we've got to do our part. So I think that there is a lot of panic in the media. I think that some of it may be justified, but I think really if we can do our part, really what the federal government is worried about is if there's too many infections in too narrow a window, it's going to overwhelm the U.S. healthcare system and the U.S. healthcare workers. They're just not prepared to deal with, 5 million. They don't have enough empty hospital beds to deal with 5 million sick people that need the type of healthcare to sustain their lives should they end up getting the coronavirus. So the more we can practice safe and hygienic behavior, social distancing and open areas, the better off we're going to be. And the more we're not going to avoid 90 million people getting affected, but we can draw that time, that window out over a much longer period of time, giving the U.S. healthcare system the time to deal with all these sick people. Okay, what about the market? Well, how do we deal with this blip in the market? It's not even a blip. It's a dip. It's a 20% dip so far. By the time you guys hear this, it'll be 10 days from now. It could be worse or it could be better. But this much I know that one of the biggest drags on your retirement is not necessarily taxes. It's not necessarily fees, what have you. One of the biggest drags is emotion. In other words, investors left to their own devices make horrible decisions when it comes to stock market investing. They just do. They make emotion-driven investing decisions. They try to get out. Instead of buying low and selling high, they actually do just the opposite. They buy high and they sell low. And if you might normally expect a 7% return over the course of your retirement, that emotion-driven investing is going to knock about 3% off of that. So instead of getting 7% consistently year over year, on average, you're going to get closer to 4%. So the worst thing you can do is say, okay, I know when the bottom of the market is, and I know when to get out, and I know when to get back in. It's statistically speaking, it's impossible to know that. I remember people back in 2008, or actually 2010, they say, yeah, back in 2008, I had a hunch. I knew that the market was going to start tanking, so I got out at just the right time. Well, guess what? It wasn't a hunch. It wasn't inspiration. You didn't know anything more about that than any other experts in the world. You just got lucky. So, I think we need to practice good fundamentals when it comes to the stock market. It's impossible to predict when to get in, when to get out. So I can't really even qualify that. Say you're probably better off just letting this thing ride out. I mean, by the time we get to 10 days from now and you're listening to this podcast, things may have turned around. But even if they haven't, I still wouldn't panic. And what it does is it really highlights one of the very important concepts I'll be talking about in my next book, Tax-Free Income for Life, which is this. When you can guarantee your expenses in retirement through the combination of a pension, Social Security, or a guaranteed lifetime income annuity, then you have the luxury of not freaking out when the stock market takes a dip like this. So, when you're in retirement, you're likely going to have a guaranteed income annuity that guarantees your income adjusted for inflation over the balance of your retirement. You'll have Social Security, but you'll also have money in a stock market portfolio. And that stock market portfolio should be earmarked to pay for non-lifestyle expenses, what I call discretionary expenses. These discretionary expenses are broken down into two different areas, what I call shock expenses or aspirational expenses. Shock expenses are things like unanticipated healthcare expenses, a long-term care expense, could be the roof needs to be repaired, you need to replace the carburetor in your car, what have you. All these unanticipated expenses that can really send you reeling in retirement if you're not prepared for it. And then you've got your aspirational expenses, which are, hey, I want to travel around the world, I want to go on a cruise, I want to fly all the grandkids to Disney World. These are maybe you got a hobby that you want to spend some money on. You want to go on that golfing trip. Those are aspirational expenses. You need to have money in a portfolio that allows you to pay for those types of expenses. By the way, the LIRP can be a good complement to your stock market portfolio that allows you to pay for some of those discretionary expenses. I would submit that in retirement, you probably want to use the LIRP to pay for discretionary expenses when the stock market is down. So it'd be a good year to take money out of your LIRP to meet your discretionary expenses. But the bottom line is you need to have money in a stock market portfolio. When you have your money guaranteed, or at least your lifestyle guaranteed by a combination of Social Security, a pension, and a guaranteed lifetime income, you have the luxury of not worrying about the stock market as much. Why? Because you're not constrained to take money out of the stock market when it's down to meet your lifestyle needs. And if we all understand sequence of return risk, if you're sitting in retirement right now and you are funding your lifestyle needs out of your stock market portfolio, you're probably freaking out right about now. Why? Because you are taking money out of your stock market when the stock market is down. So you're sort of like you're kicking your portfolio while it's down. Not only is it down 20%, but you're taking another $50,000 to $100,000 out this year to be able to fund your lifestyle need. You do that 2 years in a row, folks, and that sequence of return risk can send your portfolio into a death spiral from which it never recovers. What the guaranteed lifetime income annuity also does, it gives you the luxury of taking more risk in the market. Let me tell you this, folks, if you are retiring, the vast majority of the money you're planning on spending in retirement has not been earned yet. It has not been earned yet. So you've got to be able to take some risk in your stock market portfolio. If you go into hibernation mode and all you're doing is putting money into bonds once you hit retirement, guess what? That's not going to grow your assets sufficiently so that they'll last through life expectancy to be able to pay for things like these discretionary expenses, shock expenses, aspirational expenses that we've been talking about. So having your lifestyle expenses guaranteed affords you some luxuries that people that participate in pure stock market investing, living by the 3 or the 4% rule, whichever way you want to look at it, that are relying on decent returns in the stock market to be able to pay for their lifestyle expenses, they don't have that luxury. So they're more stressed. Studies have shown they don't live lives that are nearly as long. And they can't enjoy retirement quite as much because they're always in hibernation mode. I can't spend my money. I can't do this. I can't do that. I love how Tom Hegna puts it. He says, well, what does he say? Just in case. He goes, I don't want to buy that boat. I don't want to do the country club limited. I don't want to go on that vacation because I'm in just in case. I'm going to save this money just in case. So what happens is they don't buy the country club membership. They don't go on that extra trip. They don't buy the extra boat. And then they die and their kids inherit all their money. And the kids buy the country club membership. The kids buy the boat and the kids go on that expensive cruise or vacation. So it gives you the luxury of spending your money in retirement with impunity. You're not worried about the ebbs and flow in the stock market because if the stock market goes down this year, you're not constrained to take money out to meet your lifestyle needs. And you can afford to wait until the market recovers before you start taking money out again. And because you're really, for all intents and purposes, your guaranteed lifetime income, that becomes the bond portion of your portfolio. It allows you to invest the rest of your money in a fairly aggressive stock allocation, which means your money lasts longer. Statistically speaking, you have a less likelihood of running out of money before you die. So takeaways from today's episode. Number one, I think we need to do our part to try to stretch out the window of the coronavirus infections so that the country can manage the complexity and the additional burden of all of these infections. We stretch it out over a longer period of time. Number two, don't panic about the market. Because when you panic, you make decisions that studies have shown will erode your returns over time because it's impossible to know when the smart time to get out is, and it's impossible to know when the smart time to get in is. I've got a lot of money in the stock market, and I am not even thinking about it at all. And finally, I guess the big third takeaway is if you have guaranteed lifetime income, then you're not worried about these types of ebbs and flows in the stock market because your expenses are guaranteed. You're always going to have food on the table. You're always going to have oil on your lamps, and you're not going to have to worry about where your next paycheck's going to come from. All you got to worry about is that money's coming in, and you got to find a way to spend it. And you can take more risk in your stock market portfolio because if you're guaranteed, if your lifestyle expenses are guaranteed to come in no matter what, then you're not constrained to take money out of your stock market portfolio. You can take more risk, and that's going to increase the likelihood that your money lasts until you die. All right, so that is the podcast for today. Once again, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and you will get a little notice every week letting you know that the podcast is ready and letting you know the title and the content of that podcast. And once again, if you are looking for a Power Zero advisor, head on over to davidmcknight.com, and we will find someone, a steady hand that can help you navigate all of the pitfalls that stand between you and the 0% tax bracket. And if you're a financial advisor and you want to learn how to transition your practice to the Power of Zero type practice, head on over to powerofzero.com. And if you participate in Twitter and you want to follow me on Twitter, I would encourage you to do so. I'd be honored if you did so. It's at McKnight and Co. at McKnight and Co. Other than that, thanks for being on the podcast today, and we will look forward to chatting with you next week.